"Where is he, Mum?" I said, as I followed her down the hall to the kitchen. "Oh, you know," she said, "in the shed." "Right. He's always in the shed now." She sounded tired. Of course she did. It wouldn't be under the circumstances. I watched her fill the kettle. I took off my jacket and hung it on the back of the chair, then pulled the chair out from the kitchen table and sat down. "Yeah," she said, "you sit down. Must be tired after all that driving." "It's not so bad," I said. "Only an hour or so down the M62. It's not so bad." She said. "Thought it would take you longer than that." Was I detecting a note in her voice? I decided I wasn't, or at least I decided to ignore it. "No, just an hour or so," I said. "Anyway, how are you?" "Me? Oh, I'm fine. Don't you worry about me." There was definitely something going on. But I didn't want to hit her with a barrage of questions just as I walked in the door. "Good. That's good," I said. "Has Tanya been yet?" "She came last week," she said. "But she's busy with work so... She rings occasionally, though." Good. Good. More than you, anyway." She dropped the acid into the cup with a tea bag. "I've only got cow's milk," she said. "Cow's milk's still all right for you?" "Is it? I know what you like, with your fads." "Well, I'll just have it black, Mum," I said. "Not too strong." She poured the water from the kettle and stood vacantly jabbing the tea bag with a teaspoon. "Sorry I couldn't get here before. Yeah, well," she said. "He probably wasn't up to it before anyway. Not really. It would have been nice, though. I wanted to go to the hospital while he was in there, but, well, you know how he is. I hate hospitals." "Oh, yeah," she said. "Such busy lives you all have now, isn't it?" The judgment was rich in the flatness of her tone. I watched the teaspoon jabbing. "I'll take Dad his, shall I?" "Oh, he won't have one down there," she said. "He can't manage it on his own now. I have to hold it for him." "Really?" "What do you mean, really? He's had a stroke. What do you expect?" "Well, I don't know. He's down there on his own. Is that all right?" "Of course it is. I wouldn't let him otherwise." "No, of course not." "He's got his chair and his radio. He just sits. He's got the bell if he needs me. I check on him. Don't know what you're expecting. Look after him as best I can." "Oh, no, Mum, of course you do." "Don't know what you're expecting." "I'm sorry, Mum. I didn't mean to upset you." "Upset me? I'm not upset. Why would I be upset? I'm fine, me." Good. She lifted the tea bag out of the cup, opened the cupboard under the sink and flung it into the bin. Then she handed the cup to me. A film of dusty tannin floated on the surface, skinned a little up the sides of the mug. "Thanks, Mum." "Welcome." "I'll take you down and see him then." "That would be nice," she said. "He'll want to see you since you've made the effort. Finally. He'd be disappointed if you didn't go down and see him after you've come all this way." I bit down on the barb. "I'll just put a drop of cold in this, if that's okay," I said. "Do what you like, son," she said. I carried the tea to the sink and flicked on the cold tap, let a few drops dribble into the blackness. "I'm going to make a start on tea," she said. "You'll be stopping for your tea, will you? I've not got much in. I've got some sausages, but you won't eat those, I don't suppose." "No, I could do with some scrambled. You still eat eggs, don't you? You must eat eggs. You've got to get your protein from somewhere. I've been vegan 3 years. Eggs will be fine, Mum. Thanks. I'll go now. I'll go and see him. Yeah, go and see him. I walked down the path towards the shed. Just before I got there, I tipped the tea out onto the ground. I glanced back to the kitchen window. She wasn't there, though. Wish I'd checked before I did it, though. I could hear the radio was playing. I recognised the voices as they opened the shed door. Test match special. Dad was sat in his chair facing the window. His old armchair that used to be only his in the front room, in prime position in front of the television. "Hello, Dad," I said. "What's the score?" He didn't speak. He lifted his eyes towards me. His mouth hung a little open as he moved his head. I could see that the left side of his face still showed signs of the weakness. "How are you doing? You're looking well. How are you?" He looked as if he was going to speak, but instead he just lifted his right hand and pointed over to a stool, one of the old kitchen stools from the breakfast bar. I'd seen better days. He made a beckoning movement with his hand. I pulled the stool close and perched on it. Felt strangely precarious without a counter in front of it. I looked at him. It was worse than I had imagined. The loss was striking. The skin tight across the dome of his skull, yet sagging round his cheeks and chin. The stubble on his chin. Was Mum having to shave him too? Maybe the carer did it. His hair was thin and grey, just wisps drifting round his head. He sat slumped, his left hand heavy in his lap, the fingers curled a little open. He'd lost a lot of weight too, clearly. I was at a loss what to say, but he seemed to demand nothing from me. I wanted to reach over and touch him, but we'd never been that physical. I didn't know how he'd react, so I just sat there looking at him. His eyes were wet, roomy, a little gathering of water at the corners. His breathing was steady but loud, rasping, like it took him an effort. I could not help but listen to that rattling breath and imagine it stopping. And of course I knew it would. Knew it must. But not now, God, please. Not now while I was here, please. That would be too much. Mum would blame me. I felt my throat tighten at the thought and tears threatened in my own eyes. Stop it. I looked up to stop them falling. The roof of the shed was festooned with cobwebs like macabre bunting. I looked around the shed to distract myself. His tools arranged on the various shelves and hooks. Garden tools corralled in the corner. Woodwork tools on the bench behind him. Hammers, screwdrivers, chisels hung between nails driven into the planking. A vice clamped to the edge of the bench. "It's a long time since I've been in here with you, Dad," I said, and immediately felt the chill, the cruel chill of the words, the cold truth. "Do you remember that go-kart we made?" I said. "I can only have been about 10 or 11. Do you remember? You got that old pram from the dump and took the wheels off. And you helped me attach them to that old salt box." I say helped. You did, of course. Do you remember? I didn't want to cry. I didn't want him to see me cry. stood up and went behind him. Stood by the workbench and twisted the handle on the vice. In the test match, someone was out and the crowds went mad. I picked up tools one by one, held them in my hand, felt the weight of them resting in my hand, imagined them in his. The tears ran down my nose. Tools, unused for years. The hand drill, the hacksaw, cold chisel, the flat rasp file. Steel bits and blades all showing the gritty red of rust.